I just needed a title, and this was somehow nice. So, Adam Bean, and my name is funny because, I don't know, in year 2000, I gave some courses about Java beans and enterprise Java beans, and no one believed me that my name is actually Bean. And I got also lots of fun on gas stations. Your name is Bean, Mr. Bean, right? So, yeah, okay. Mr. Enterprise Bean, probably, but not Mr. Bean. So, I started with Java in 1995, and the strange stuff about me, I still have fun with plain Java. So I really enjoy programming Java. I mean, not the JVM, but really the Java syntax. And I try from time to time JavaScript, Scala, Groovy, Clojure, and whatever, but Java is still fun. And not only fun, it's extremely productive. And this is what I would like to show you today in the scope of Java EE. And the problem is not Java or Java EE. Problem are mostly ivory tower architects, I would say. This is guys who are girls is not that, but guys and girls who are interested more in slides than in code, I would say. This is the real problem, at least in my projects, because they're thinking about stuff which never works and causes infinite amount of hacking and coding. So if someone likes code, usually Java is productive. If someone likes PowerPoint, Java is usually not productive, and Java EE is not the exception from the rule. Yeah, I'm just a programmer working with Java EE mostly. In my current projects, mostly Java 6. Some Vue projects are supporting Java 5, and J2E is almost museum technologies. Was the old stuff with lots of XML and Xdoclet and home interfaces, remote interfaces, and all the stuff who you probably know from your grandfather or something like this, right? So, wrote some book. This is a 1-year-old. This is a 4 weeks old, but we have no time to talk about books. So, this is the mostly interested slide, and this is actually not from me. This is from a science fiction author, and this is future is now, but it's not evenly distributed yet. So what it means is actually, if you are pragmatic, you can build right now application which looking great, and no one is doing that because they didn't got the idea yet. So this is actually the topic of my talk, and this is actually the last slide. This is the almost last slide, and this would be the very last slide. So now you know all my slides, and you did the picture, so we can start with the content. And as everything, Java EE starts in the terminal. And in my case, if I talk about something in junk folder, this is nothing about quality, it's just a folder which I will delete afterwards. So, how I start with Java EE? Maven. Archetype, generate. Of course, every generate. Of course, every IDE is able to support that, but I start from command line because not they are thinking you need specific wizards or something. So, IntelliJ and NetBeans are doing this from out of the box, and with Eclipse you need, of course, plenty of plugins to do that. But and around 400 there is a web app Java 6, 407 web app Java 6, and this is actually the archetype you need to start a Java 6 project. And you could start with that, or even easier is just pick the number 407. So I will do that. 407. Pardon? What are you saying? Will it break, you saying? 407. Ah, okay, thank you. Okay. Okay, you are a real hacker, so you prefer code instead of slides, right? You know the code for, oh, okay. Group PL, right? JDD, group ID, and artifact ID would be universe. So it's like, what I understood, this is the center of Java universe for 2 days. And version is the last one, package, of course, is this one, and this is like very common in Microsoft operating system. Would you really like to do that? Of course, you have to say yes. So now I have my Java 6 project. I can switch to the folder and build that. We are actually done. And the nice story is, I forgot to mention, I am a freelancer, so one-man show, or more technically, and singleton, so working for different companies. And sometimes we get 2 weeks for this, just for set up a project, 2 weeks. So we did it now in 2 minutes, probably. So now I fire up an IDE, and this is actually what I always use with Java 6. Set up Java 6 project. So the next strange thing is, my opinion, Maven is great for Java 6. It's really, I think, the easiest possible choice you can currently get. It's not the fanciest one, but it's a very, very simple. So I have the project right now. I just opened that. And I would like to show you what happened behind the scenes. So it created the project with group ID, artifact ID, version, packaging is war. So what's new in Java 6, all my projects are war. Not only my projects, your project should be wars as well. So ears are not needed very often. You would need ear if you would like to, I don't know, package JCA connector with the application, or you are building larger application which comprises several wars inside. So you need several context paths. Usually it's not the case in my case. So all my applications are simple wars. Why is it important? Because you can build war faster. With ear, you have to build the ear 3 times, right? EJB jar, then war, then ear. Then you need 4 projects, which is just crazy, if you think about this. But it looks better in the IDE, right? So, but it's not very productive. I forgot to mention, if you have a question, just ask anytime you want. So, questions? No questions. Questions? No. So, what happened here? Name universe, dependency. One single dependency on Java 6. I forgot how big it is, but it's a very small. So it's not like you would have troubles there. So on the last slide with JSR 310, you could, there's, I think, it's about 50K or something. It's the whole API from Java 6 is very, very small. If you will have time, I will try to find it in Maven repository. It is really, really slow. So here's everything you need. And this is basically it. So we have everything needed to build a Java 6 project. I will show you what is there. There are some strange things still in Maven. The first is you have to set up the JDK version. So you could remove that, and then you will go with the default. It says use JDK 1.6 source. You could put here 1.7. So this configures the compiler actually. This is a nice one, Maven Plugin. The only reason why the Maven Plugin is here is because of this line of code. What it means is fail on missing web.xml false. Why? Because in Java 6, the web.xml is optional. So we have to configure the Maven plugin to be optional. If you remove this configuration, I would have to have a web.xml which is not needed, right? Not needed for JAX-RS, not needed for nothing except you have to configure something. If you have frameworks like JSF, you could configure their, I don't know, authentication or whatever, or development mode. Now, this is even interesting one. This plugin, more interesting. Most of the some of the applications, post-construct, pre-destroy, resource, data source, are not part of Java 6. They are part of JDK. This is actually the defensive stuff. So JSR 250 common annotations for Java. And what this does is it says, okay, some annotations are newer in Java 6 than in JDK, so use the JDK Java E annotations. But you only need that in case you are heavily relying on data source definitions and data sources. For usual inject project doesn't matter. Okay? So you could actually remove that. You could remove that if you had one web.xml, and if you are fine with JDK 1.6, you could remove that, and then you have just empty war project. Questions? The simplest possible and fastest way to start with Java 6. In my current project, we built it from scratch, and it looks like enterprise project, right? 500 dependencies, 500 plugins. No one knows what it actually does, and I will delete until next week 80% of the Maven POM. There are 500 to 1,000 lines of code. If you ask developers why is there, it didn't work. We changed the order, and now it works. It's like hell on earth. So Just start with that, with minimal stuff, and this is sufficient for 80% of all Java 6 applications. Got it? Questions? Everyone agreed? Perfect. So delete everything after the conference. It's like black hole in the universe, right? So no server selected because I opened it with NetBeans. NetBeans has no idea. This, by the way, completely free development environment. You can use IntelliJ or Eclipse as well. Because nothing configures. Okay, use for now Glassfish. And it will start, hopefully, the database, the Glassfish, and deploy the application. So I plan to show you everything else with Maven without any tricks. So Glassfish should start. And I forgot delete applications because I have lots of applications running on Glassfish. And this from my workshop. So I will just undeploy these. But this is the application we deployed now, PLGDD Universe War. Questions? No questions. So I actually wanted to start this time with servlet, but I think because of time, I will start with JSF and with JSF page. Index. What I would like to show you, this doesn't matter the page, but I need something run. So we have the facelet page, and I just need a backing bean. I call that index as well. Finish. And this bean is a... Why it is so? Oh, this is my keyboard. This is fancy. I will have to kill that somehow. Someone hacked my machine, right? Not you? This was your comment with 407. Kill Java. What I plan to do is to create an index bean which will be annotated with model. And index annotated with model. Oh, my keyboard is working, okay. Of course, if keyboard doesn't work, you are screwed, right? This is the common best practice in Java 6. Without keyboard, it's really hard to do anything. And probably we could switch to Siri or something, but it will take longer than 50 minutes. But so, string, hello. We are the universe. So what we learned so far is the following. Model is a stereotype. It is request scoped and named. Named comes with convention over configuration. It means take the name of the Java class. Now, we have a bubble, means warning. Why? To make dependency injection working, we need an empty bins.xml. Why? Because of internal optimization. The container looks in a jar. If it finds bins.xml, then it activates dependency injection. Without bins.xml, you get null pointer exceptions. Happens always to me, except in talks. I always think about this. In my project, if I'm alone at home, I always forget bins.xml and then wonder myself why I have null pointer. So, index. Then we have the JSF page. And without any I can say index hello. I killed Java. So I have to rerun it, so from scratch, because I didn't remember that. I could, this is the hard way I'm showing you, with plain Maven without any support from the IDE, and yeah, with native NetBeans support and Ant project would be lots faster. But yeah, we are the universe, seems to work. So this is best practice, kind of presenter. So every page has a presenter, period. And the presenter implements presentation logic. Is JSF suitable for all kinds of applications? No, just for page-oriented applications. If you would like to build a web app, something like Word within a browser, or Google Gmail or Google Docs or something like this, frameworks like Vardin are far more suitable than JSF. And JSF is great for wizards, just page flow-oriented applications, because everything about JSF is page flow. For that, it's the simplest possible choice. If I have to do something simple, I always use JSF. The more complicated the applications get, the harder JSF becomes. As everything, actually, right? So now, The next small best practice is use the lightweight stuff like an EJB. Good morning, not Vietnam. I've wrote around once Krakow in my weblog, got lots of trouble. It's like, you stupid German. It's not Krakow, it's Krakow. So, good morning, Krakow. Krakow, not off. I don't have the O with the how it's called, you know. It should be like that, but it cannot. So, stateless. Now, why stateless? For two reasons. You will see the first reason is transactions. I get transactions for free. Without it stateless, it becomes crazy complicated. I would have to build a utility class, which returns on each click an entity manager. Opens transaction, closes the transactions, joins the transactions, checks all exceptions, and rollbacks the transaction on exception. Mission impossible, larger project. I see it a lot. Why? Just to avoid of stateless session beans. And I ask why I would like to avoid, because they are too heavyweight. Heavyweight means someone weighted probably the annotation and decided it is too heavyweight because nothing else is there. I mean, it's just the annotation. So I will like public string get message, return EJB hello, and then inject that. The first very small best practice. Interfaces are exception. Why? Yeah, why to use the interface here? If I would use an interface, I will have to name the class Good Morning Krakow Impl, which would break all concept of object orientation. If you name something Impl, actually it is no more extensible, right? Because the second implementation would have to be consistently named Impl 2, 3, and 4, and no one knows actually what it means. And I have to say, in all my code reviews and historical investigations of subversions, actually, most of the projects were like that. Every class had an interface. And from the whole duration of the project, it always was the case, one-to-one. There was never two implementation for an interface, just one-to-one. If you ask why, I get the answer, you will see. One day, there will be a case. Yeah? And in one project we were killed, it was 7 years, nothing happened, right? And it's okay, I'm curious about the one day. And imagine then, one day comes, right? One day, next year, one day, you will get the case where you get two implementations and you forgot the interface. How long will it take? I mean, I'm not talking about VI or TextMate or BBEdit or how is this Emacs. I'm talking about Eclipse, IntelliJ, and NetBeans to introduce an interface afterwards. I would say, well, if you try that, most of the IDE will even suggest you should replace all implementation with the interface. And this is the problem. Most ivory tower architects didn't know that we have IDEs with refactorings. This is since year 2000. Then Eclipse came out, we are able to refactor things. So this is the great revelation in context of Java. The next problem, you recognize that this Good Morning Krakow is not private. And the reason for that is, sometimes I write unit tests. If you write unit tests and the unit test class and the production class is in the same package. So it is a lot easier if there's package-wide visibility, you can access the fields directly. And I get, of course, the next criticism, you broke the encapsulation, and you will see one developer will access the class. Okay, if you will access the class first, EJB generates always a proxy. Nothing will happen, because it will never be able to get access to the real class. So, and if it tries that, you know, all our great technology like Sonasors, Findbanks, everything will scream. Actually, most of the builds will just break because it violates, there's a critical violation in Sonar, for instance. So the revelation number 2 is we have such tools, you know, and we have it not since year 2000, probably 2006, so already 6 years. Questions? But sometimes it's easier just to work with interfaces, don't discuss. So last time I spent 1 day just discussing how great or bad interfaces are. So, and Java E6 doesn't care. It just supports interfaces or not. So EJB hello, it works. Questions? So this is, yeah. To EJB? Use @inject whenever possible. The problem with inject is empty. No problem. The good stuff about @inject is empty. But sometimes you have EJBs which are not that conventional. So then you can use EJB. If you look at the EJB, you can specify more. You can specify the name, bin name, interfaces, JNDI names, if there's a remote bin. So I would say always use @inject. If it doesn't work, you will have to use @EJB. And there is one corner case, @inject doesn't support circular dependencies and EJB does. But if you have that problem, your design is not very clean, I would say. Okay? Very good question, thank you. So @inject back. Everyone agreed? So everything which is injected is not private. You could use private, but then you will have to rely on Mockito's capability of injecting things. Or you will have to hack it with reflection, which is, by the way, not a problem at all, right? Set accessible true, set field, period, yes. Yeah, of course, you can do that. But why? More code. But you can do that, but it's far more code. So, why EJB? Constructor method, whatever. So in Java 6, there are actually no limits. If you find a limit, you can always extend with portable extensions everything you like, right? So if someone asks you, is it possible with Java 6? The answer is yes. The only question is, can I go with convention or do I have to configure something? So now, the difference between model and EJB. Post construct? Oh no, not activate construct. And by the way, post construct, as I said, comes with JDK. Why I'm saying that? It's really funny. This is JavaX annotation post construct. In one project, they didn't use EJBs because they say there's lots of annotations I have to think about. Post construct and okay, but the annotation is JDK, not an EJB. So you can get rid of EJBs, but the annotations are still there, right? So model. And post construct, EJB. So what you see here, hopefully, is one EJB. I have to save everything. So EJB was created once and model 3 times. You see that? So obviously the life cycle is different. Model is request scoped and the EJB is not scoped at all. And this is actually a great hack. Why? Because it's a great optimization. So in my projects, it's like EJBs are entry point to the component and they are created on demand. It means the whole objects are created behind the scenes on demand. If you would exchange the stateless with nothing, it will work, of course. Did it recognize the change? Yeah. EJB model. It creates for each request one Good Morning Krakow instance, right? If you think about this, let's imagine what usually happens. The entry point, you inject in the entry point POJOs, entity managers, whatever. The whole object graph will have to be traversed and injected, which takes some time. So with EJBs, you get a better performance. In fact, I measure the performance in my weblog if you're curious. The performance is very comparable to a singleton, right? Why it's funny? Because some projects try to optimize the architecture and get rid of EJBs because of performance. And it's somehow sad, but what they never did, they never measure the optimization. So what I would say, measure first, optimize, measure again. If it doesn't work, roll back the change. Okay? You got a point? So the architecture is the following. Manage bin or Vadin UI or something else is in the presentation tier. Then comes the boundary. The boundary is always in stateless. EJB sometimes stateful, but mostly stateless, and it cares about transactions. It cares about lifecycle, and you can inject to this EJB whatever you want. Manage beans, EJBs, no one cares. Questions? So, and we have lots of great application servers. We have Tommy, Apache, JBoss, Glassfish, and even WebSphere is leaner and leaner. 8.5 is actually usable. So you don't need 30 cores machine and 12 gigs of RAM. So it will start on usual 5K laptop probably, right? So, so we have now. So what I would like to see, should I do a little bit rest for you? Persistence. In which direction should we talk about best practices? So what I surprised, never said, okay, without interfaces you cannot test. As you see, you probably already know that for mocking something, interfaces are absolutely superfluous. So whether you have interfaces or not, no one cares. You can mock out whatever you want. This is just, so interfaces are, when I use interfaces for the only thing, let's say you have algorithms which you would like to encapsulate, like compression or something. So this is, of course, you will need an interface and 2 implementations. Or you are building a public API for other project, then you need the interfaces. For everything else, interfaces are strange. Okay? So, now about, okay, do more fancy stuff. So the next question is how to configure Java 6 application. It's crazy, crazy complicated. So, okay, why not to inject a string? Complex configuration. At inject. Why not? Because it doesn't work. You get an exception with something like unsatisfied dependencies error. It means what? What should I inject? It's unspecified. It means we have to build something. So I will start with the, because of time, with the solution to the problem. So we have 20 minutes, I think, right? 20 minutes? Yes. Configurator. So what you can do, just build a pojo and say, this guy configures produces, and what I can do here is a little bit of voodoo magic. What it means, I'm creating a string. This is the hook of the application server. And injection point is the target. So I know the type, the member, the whole environment where the string is going to be injected. So what I can do is say IP get member, get declaring class. So I know the class. And I can also say IP get member, get name. And then get name plus, let's say, something plus name. So what I did right now, I'm just returning the fully qualified class name of the target and the member name. So, and I forgot to use actually the string, which is important, plus this complex configuration. So it doesn't work because I always forget to save. So the keyboard has to work, and you have always save your code. So what you see, EJB hello, good morning Krakow, complex configuration. So what it means, I know I have the key, which is unique in the whole Java universe, right? So what I can do right now, I can go to the database and configure all my application on the fly. What took it 1 line of code? Okay, 3 lines of code. I will have to inject an entity manager, a table with 2 columns for simplistic values, with 3 columns if you would like to have environment-dependent configuration. Like you would like different values for production, test, and integration. So, and about constructor injection, let's say we build something like this. We could use, for instance, environment. Let's say this is an enum. We have production and test. And environment provider, which creates an environment, stage, shorter, produces. And just imagine I would, I could go now to read system property, faces config. There's also in the Java server, if you have Java server faces, there's already pre-configured stages comes with JSF with support. And I can just return environment test. So now it's available for injection. So I can go here and say, where is my configurator here? Just use the environment. So saving is critical. Test. So this was method injection. Constructor injection will also work. So, but I think you are not here because to see whether constructor injection works, right? So, so this is actually somehow important and almost complicated way of configuring applications. Just imagine it could provide an int and long, which just produce ints and longs, and I will call the string method and just convert ints and longs. Questions? No questions. No questions? Then let's say I would like to extend something. This is, I don't know whether, most of my projects are in Germany. Some projects are just obsessed about extensibility. This is the same like interfaces. So never something is extended, but they want it to extend. And they play with OSGI and modules and what you can find in magazines in the internet. So how to do that in Java 6? Let's say I would like to extend the configurator. So we have default configurator, and I would like to create a database configurator, right? So what you usually can do in war is the core logic. You can put your extensions in a simple jar and link to the jar from the POM dependency from outside. So I will try that. So let's imagine I create a class, DB configurator, and this class extends configurator. And I implement override method. I override method, this method I would like to override. Return from database. And it produces, but also specializes. And now my subclass overruled this is nothing else than built-in template pattern. Very powerful mechanism without any interfaces. So you have core logic in your war, and you can extend everything you like on demand. You got it? Specialize means deactivate the upper class. Now the next stuff is threads. It is very hard to start threads in EJBs. So crazy hard. So I will show you what you can do very easily. Thread starter. Public void start or execute. Asynchronous. So now it is asynchronous. And I'm done. So with this class, you can start all threads on Earth asynchronously in managed environment, controlled by and monitored by the application in transactional way, right? So what I can do, good morning. I go, okay, right now, I inject my thread starter. somehow inspired by Firestarter. Great song. So, and ts execute new runnable. Wow. And of course, I have to block to see something. 1 second. New date. This is the ugly date. The old one. Everything saved. And it didn't work. You know why? Exactly. So let's see. 1 second. Slow, right? Because I forgot this. No. This. So now it's very asynchronous. Okay? Okay. So very easy to start threads in managed environment. You can do it. What you can even do sometimes, you can implement the executor from JDK 1.6 and inject the executor, and it will exactly looks like from outside like Java SE executor, but it's leaner and better. What also supports future. I can return future and very easily build with view lines of code MapReduce algorithms. Very easy. Now, the question, from where I know when the job is completed? I will just implement for you something until my time is cancelled here by the nice lady, right? So you stop, and then I will. So we just stop of hacking. So there will be no conclusion, nothing. So if you have just questions, feel free to ask. Joblessness. So I would say on each job end, I would like to notify my listeners. So what I need a listener. Job listener. And the listener monitors the state. Not that you get the impression that all Java 6 applications are ASCII-based after the course. It's just because of time, right? So we have usually a nicer output with. So plus message. So everything saved. Done. So it receives the message. So what it kills is GMS for local communication, and still not that interesting. What it makes really interesting for real world is yeah, exactly, after success. So what it means, the message is only delivered in case the transaction completes, which is great for batch job monitoring, right? So I would say we need one method which is successful. Successful. And the other is failed. And now, just to prove what I could do, what I could do is to throw an exception. Why not? Throw new runtime exception. Just for fun. Now, if I test that, the exception is obvious, but where is the notification? Okay, wait a minute, thread starter, environment, job listener. Ah, thank you. What a great audience, right? After failure. By the way, the default is during, so it will deliver it immediately. So and somewhere is here minus. And this is very useful for job processing. So you see in real time which transactions are successful and which are failed. So how much time I have? 8 minutes. Okay, then I can show you command-like communication with Java EE. It's a little bit more exciting than the old. Wait a minute. I just had a water, not even a Żywiec. So it's called, I would call that command servlet. So no XML, of course. So we are not in 1970. The only problem is the resolution here. So, and this is a servlet with lots of superfluous code because it was generated. So I will delete everything which is not needed and hope it will still work in 8 minutes. Probably 7 minutes, right? So I have a beautiful servlet, which is a little bit boring, but I can say async supported true. And what it means, it is asynchronous. And what it really means, I can do stuff like that. And I can send the async context via event. You have no question, so I assumed everything is obvious. I show a little bit more advanced stuff, right? So, listeners, otherwise, inject. Listeners, fire, start async. What happens here is, I starting an asynchronous context, and the servlet completes here, the thread gets parked, and the browser blocks. Long polling, built in. You can handle thousands of concurrent connections that way without breaking the server. Your web server will probably break if it's Apache, but not the application server. So command servlet, I think. So it blocks forever until timeout. So I would like to do something with that. So I will just create, or I will use the job listener because of time. Where is the job listener here? So I can create another listener here. Public void on a window request. What we did recently with that is provided something like interactive progress bar for all job listeners. So you could register with a browser on our batch processing engine, and you will see what happens in real time without any impact on scalability on the server. At observes, async context. Of course, there is not such thing like no impact, but not measurable impact. So AC, get response, get writer. Let's do that way, it's fun. Print line from EJB plus new date. So this, because of servlets, print line and write, I can throw an IO exception, and then say AC complete. And complete causes that this thread wakes up and pushes the content to the server. Now, we have real-time communication between the backend and the front end. And just think about this. If we combine the asynchronous annotation with some futures and the asynchronous servlet, we could have an asynchronous architecture from beginning to the end. And I built everything with explaining in 50 minutes. So I don't know any other framework which is as lean as Java 6. And the problem are, as I said, ivory towers. If you're not coding and just reading, the internet and blogs, it seems like learn Java 6, you need, 5 years of studying strange tutorials. But in fact, you just need a few annotations and just be motivated to write lean code. And actually, Java 6 applications are leaner than Java SE because lots of stuff like threading. Try, for instance, to do something like asynchronous with JDK. It's of course possible. You will have to do something like executor service, new cached executors, new cached executor. And you need about 2-3 lines of code to achieve the same, right? And what I also very like in Java 6 is the combination of convention over configuration and dependency injection. Absolute no configuration. If the choice is unique, you don't have to specify that. And this is what makes Java 6 applications so unique. How much time I have? 2 minutes. Do you have any questions? No questions? Yeah, what's wrong with you? So.
How does annotations and injection work in multi-server environment? I mean, for the remote being.
They don't work at all, or they work. I mean, if you have @EJB and this is a remote bin, it will work if the JNDI name is correct. But @inject is always local, as it should be. How to integrate something remote? Very easy. You build producers method, which I show you. Instead of creating the configuration, you can look up from JNDI something remote and re-expose that, and you have seamless integration of remote services. Very good question. Other questions? 2 minutes, about 9 questions left, right? Pardon? What? If I have already a JBoss or Glassfish, I never would use Spring because Spring and Java 6 share the same annotations. Like @inject comes actually from Spring, so this is too much overlap. But if I'm not allowed to use Tomcat and not allowed to use Tommy, and the customer for some reason wants just to run Tomcat, I have to use Spring. So, and I will start with Java 6. If I see that something is not possible with Java 6, I will patch Java 6 with Spring as well. But in Java 6, mixing Java 6 with Spring is crazy, is my personal opinion, because you get all Spring annotations plus all Java 6 annotations in one project, and both frameworks are very, very similar. Actually, most of my code would run on Spring container as well right now.
Would you feel that Spring's more mature than Java 6?
No, the same, really, because most application servers are older than Spring. They are a lot older than Spring. So I'm working with application server from 1997. Java Web Server was the first one. Then Tenga BA was 1998. And this is the old code base refactored, but mature, I wouldn't say that. Eclipse Link here in Glassfish is older than Java because the first version was implemented with Smalltalk. Very good question. Other questions? No? Summer? No question? Then thank you for coming. Probably see you in one of my workshops or conferences or even projects, who knows. So thank you, enjoy the conference.
Thank you very much for the presentation.